As we all know, astrology is a belief system that suggests a connection between celestial events and human affairs. Some people believe that astrology can provide insights into personality traits, strengths, and weaknesses, which can be helpful in various areas of life, including business. Now, here's a quick question. What if the movement of the planets in relation to Earth could foretell whether your business will be a boom or a bust? And another question to you is this. What if you could use that information like technical and fundamental data to pick which market to enter? Well, I know this can be a little bit strange to you if you don't follow astrology, but today we have invited an extraordinary astrologer who will be going to talk a lot about this later on. Hi, my name is Rayson Chu and I'm your host for the Ragazzi Show. And today we've invited an incredible astrologer. Her name is none other than Carmen Turner Schott. Carmen is an author, licensed clinical social worker, astrological astrologer, and teacher. She has been researching the 8th and 12th astrological houses and trauma, healing, and transformation for the past 28 years. She has presented astrology workshops for the Association of Research and Enlightenment (ARE) throughout the years and teaches a variety of spiritual development classes. And wow, without further ado, let's welcome Carmen into the podcast. Woohoo!
Ooh, hi. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Oh, you're most welcome. I mean, it's really an honor and pleasure to have you
Thank
here.
you.
And to be honest, this is my first time having an astrologer who's going to talk a lot about entrepreneurship and business in
Yeah.
this podcast because the last time I had people who talked about numerology, who
Hmm.
talked about a little bit on 八字, which I'm not sure if you've heard of it, which is
Hmm.
like some sort of a little bit of fortune telling kind of thing,
Yeah.
and astrology as well, but not towards the Western aspects of
Sure.
astrology. Yeah. So wow, it's amazing to be able to speak with you, and I believe you are actually based in the United States, right?
Yes, I'm in the Midwest. I'm near St. Louis, Missouri,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, about 5 hours from Chicago. So I'm
Oh.
right in the middle.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. And I believe now it's like 7 p.m. over at your area, right?
Yes, yes. And are you?
Wow.
Where are you? Are you overseas? Right?
Yes, I am. I am based in Singapore, and
That's
now it's
awesome.
like 8 a.m., 10 a.m.
Wow.
in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Wow. Um, Carmen, can you share with the audience a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Sure, sure. So I started out studying astrology when I was about 16. And
Hmm.
I always loved psychology and high
Mm-hmm.
school and decided, I wanted to be a counselor or psychologist. And I also loved religion and philosophy and learning about different religions and beliefs and travel, And so I kind of did
Mm-hmm.
both when I was in college and became a social worker. And I started out, as a licensed clinical social worker, but even way before that, I always knew astrology. I taught it to myself when I was in high school, and I practiced. And I started my own business doing it when I was about 20 years old. And I founded what's
Wow.
called Deep Soul Divers Astrology. And I can, I'll share some lessons learned with you later. I know you asked me some great questions to hit, but
Mm-hmm.
I it all kind of fell into my lap that I've always done two different jobs, and I'll explain a little bit about that. That it's in my chart, and that could be in the audience's chart. I'm meant to work two jobs, and that's the Gemini on the 10th house of career. So I can explain a lot of this when I see someone's chart. I can see their
Mm-hmm.
strengths, but I started out as a social worker working with children, teens, and adults. And then I got into sexual assault prevention and violence prevention and response. And I've done a lot of work with trauma survivors. I've done private practice. I have a normal job in the real world, and then I do deep soul divers astrology. I'm a consultation psychological astrology, which is really a tool of self awareness, and I've been doing it for almost 30 years now. And then
Okay.
I've been writing books for a while, which I can share a little bit about that journey. But I self published my first book back in 2010, and I've always loved to write. So I've been a writer, but it was hard to get in the publishing industry, right? It was hard to get a book
Right.
published, and so you take a lot of rejection. You just keep sending it out there, and I finally got a publisher, and now I have two publishers and four new books out. So the past 2 years, so
Wow.
it was a lot of work, but it's worth it, and it's really just being patient and putting that effort in, to what you do, and being positive and not giving up, and
Yep.
so we can talk about that, and I can give, my tips of how I ended up. But I believe that astrology is a powerful tool that helps us heal, transform, and build resilience. Everyone has a
Mm,
unique chart. Everyone's personality is different. You know this. Even twins can be very different emotionally, and that's because the moon
right.
sign changes through the sky every 2 to 3 days. So if twins are
Mm,
born like 8 hours apart, emotionally they can be very different, even though their birth chart's very similar. They can have some small differences in their personality, and I've seen it with twins, and all over the world. I've worked with people for many years, and I love it. It's a tool. It's my passion, and that's why I love doing it. And I think, when something's your passion, it doesn't feel like work, right? When you're doing
right.
something you love to do, it's something that is fun, and if you can, do it as a job and make money, it's even better, right? So that's what I've
Hmm.
been doing, and that's, I try to open people's minds to it, because a lot of people don't realize it's a science, and it is energy. Everything is energy, and it's very
Hmm.
validating for people. I'm not making
Mm,
stuff up. These are things and energy patterns that I've researched and studied for many years. And I've seen
okay.
people, I've collected all these charts, and I've seen these same patterns. And that's how I write my books and talk about all the things I've learned, by doing counseling with people and using this as a tool.
Oh, interesting. Wow, this is very interesting
Yeah.
way of how do I put it? Like being a counselor and a psychologist to someone, because usually they will use the
Yeah.
the textbook of psychology rather than
Hmm.
what you have been using, which is astrology. Very very interesting way of looking at people and things. And can you tell us a bit more about your backstory on how you
Sure.
became a psychologist astrologer? And don't mind me asking, is psychologist astrologer a, a an actual term in the psychology world, or is this just something that you coined together in a sense?
So this is something that's been around. Carl
Oh,
Jung, the famous astrologer, he was a famous psychologist, was an astrologer. Carl Jung, he said
oh,
astrology was fact, right? And
okay.
it can be used as a tool. So, him and Sigmund Freud were the two big, right, psychologists. So Carl Jung has a lot of books, on dreams, and he studied astrology. So did Nostradamus, so
Okay.
did Hippocrates, the father of medicine. I mean, astrology has been around since ancient times and was used to diagnose illnesses and predict
Mm-hmm.
different events. And what it is it's created by, I believe it's created by the universe, by God. And
Mm-hmm.
it's in the Bible, it's in religion, it's in all these historic art, churches all over the world.
Yep.
There's symbols. The symbols of astrology are all over the world. And so I'm very open minded to it. But how I was not raised to believe this, as you I'm sure you know. I was raised very
Yep.
traditional in the Midwest, which is known as the Bible Belt, very Christian,
Yep.
and raised, just as a normal person. But I never felt normal. Ever since I was little,
Okay.
I felt different, and I was very sensitive and very empathic. I would feel what people's emotions. I would know when someone was hurting, when they were sad, and I was always trying to help people, and I'd say, "Are you okay?" Because I would feel things, and no one could explain to me how I just knew things, right? I would just kind of know things, and I would dream. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
always kind of different than my peers. And when I was 16, I had an experience that changed my life. I woke up one night and I saw a glowing ball of light in my doorway.
Oh,
And yes, and my mother saw it too. So I knew, I wasn't sleeping, I was awake. I woke up in the night and saw it. It was about this big, floating there, was like yellow, white, translucent, and I couldn't
okay.
yell, I couldn't move, because of course it was the unknown, so I was afraid. I was afraid. And I think now it was probably an angel, something, it wasn't negative, but in my 16-year-old mind, I was scared, right? And my mother, I yelled for her. Finally, I had my voice and she saw it. And she said,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's a flashlight. Maybe there's a lightning bug. And we laughed, because the next day she said, that was not a lightning bug. I don't know what that was. And she didn't know what to say to me. And so
Okay.
that personal experience is what got me starting to look into these things, right? And
Right.
go and read books and self teach myself. And the first book I got was a little astrology book about Virgo, which is my sun sign. And I
Mm.
just started, it validated my personality. I thought, how is this me? This is so true. I'm a
Yeah.
worrier. I get anxious. I want to do things right. I like things planned. I like to be organized, right? And so I
Yeah.
thought, this is me. How does this work? And then, I love psychology, and I was always spiritual. So after that, I taught myself astrology. I literally, in those days, we didn't have computers. So we had to do it
Right.
by hand with a wheel and math and everything, longitude, latitude, and draw everything. Now I have a computer program that does it instantly for me. It's so much better. But in
Yeah.
the old days, I'm only 47, so I'm not that old. But in the old days,
Okay.
I had to do it by hand. And I just started learning, and I knew it was so accurate, and I started sharing it with people, my friends. In college, I was doing consults for free, literally
Mm-hmm.
just for fun, because I loved it, and I felt like I was helping people. And I felt like one session with astrology was deeper than 8 therapy sessions with a therapist, because
Wow.
it is so powerful. Like, you get so much out of 1 hour, and you can be going for a year to see a counselor and never get to the deeper stuff that astrology brings out. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
wow, this is I want to do this when I become a counselor. I want to bring it in as a tool, right? And
Right.
there's all kinds of different personality theories. There's the Myers-Briggs, the four lenses. All these things are
Yeah.
for team building. I mean, I'm trained in all of them, and I've done all these team buildings in businesses and at work, and for teams, so we understand each other at work. And astrology is the same thing. It can be used for the exact same thing, to build a team, to know each other's strengths on your team or in your business. When you know someone's sun sign, that gives you a lot of insight about their personality. But when you have their whole chart, then you really know everything about them. And
Mm.
there was a meme I saw once on Facebook, and I laughed, and it was like a Leonardo DiCaprio asking somebody. It was one of those movies. Um, what time were you born? What's your date of birth, and what time were you born? And the guy's like, why? And he's like, I don't think I can work with you, because that's how I am. I need to know someone's sun sign at a minimum. When are you born?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I just know, when I meet people. But I taught myself astrology, and I started doing it in graduate school, and I got my master's in social work, and I've always been doing it. And then people started wanting to pay me. So, this is part of entrepreneurship
Oh.
and business, right? Because I
Right.
never had a business. I didn't know what I was doing, right? And I wasn't a business major. I was a psychology social work major. I mean, money and finance were not my forte, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't go into a career field that was a money making career field. I went into career field to help other people. And
Right.
so I just started feeling, I felt a little guilty, right, to take money. But then I thought, well, this is a business. I'm giving a service, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
helping them, and I'm putting a lot of time and effort. And so I started accepting donations. That's how I kind of started.
Mm.
and
Oh.
and I
Okay.
would just say, hey, if whatever you want to donate, and then people would donate. And then
Mm-hmm.
it took several years for me to actually have a fee. I got a website, I got started
Yeah.
charging a small fee, and I felt good about that. I started pretty low, and I built up, and through the years, I've really been offering the same price until I started getting books published, and then I raised it just a little bit. but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
outrageously expensive. Like a lot of astrologers are very expensive, and I never do that because I feel like, if people find me and come to me, then it's meant to be.
Yeah.
And I don't really advertise a ton, my consults, but I do advertise my books and things I do
Mm-hmm.
on social media. But I have a wait list now, because of my
Oh
books.
wow.
Yeah, so I work a normal job that's very demanding, so I really only have
Mm-hmm.
nights and weekends that I can
Right.
do my astrology consults for people. But yeah, I started teaching it too. People started asking me to come out and do workshops, and I've done workshops, many years. I mean, even years ago, I did workshops for the Edgar Casey Foundation, out in Virginia Beach, some groups. I did
Mm-hmm.
live presentations, did astrology, a map of the soul, and I did, conferences, fairs. I would go out and teach astrology, and
Mm-hmm.
have booths and things like that. And then I just
Right.
kind of I outgrew that in a way, and I changed. And I'm like, I really want to write about this. I want to teach people the basics of it so they understand it in a simple way. And
Yeah.
that's what my sun signs book, Sun Signs, Houses, and Healing, is a beginner's
Mm-hmm.
guide. And it's so easy to understand, and the whole intro explains how to do your chart, what it all means, and then you can look up each of the 12 sun signs personalities, and it gives self-care tips, how you find
Mm-hmm.
happiness, how you heal, how you
Yep.
transform, how you become resilient, which means when you get knocked down, how do you get back up? And every sign has its strengths and weaknesses, right? and
Right.
and so I go into that. And but yeah, I want to use it as a tool of self-awareness to help people understand themselves in a deeper way. And that's kind of
Mm.
how I got into it. And yeah, great question. I got a lot more, and I got my little notes here, so yeah, ask me whatever you want.
Sure, sure, no problem. Wow, really exciting. I mean, like to know that you had this epiphany and this spiritual encounter in age 16, and then after that
Mhm.
it became a huge obsession and passion towards finding out more about astrology and incorporate it towards psychology, which
Yeah.
is really really amazing. And I'm pretty sure you already have like hundreds and thousands of people that you have helped, and they are from all over the world. I remember you have
Yeah.
some that are from US. There are quite a few of them that's actually based international,
Yes.
right? So do you have anyone that's based in Singapore that that consulted you before?
I have a long time ago. I mean, I've had,
Oh,
one thing I learned about business, is to keep a client list. And I learned that
yeah.
late. I mean, I was doing this, I mean, for a long time, and I never really built an email client list. And I'm kind of just been starting that the past couple years. And I'm like, man, all those people that email me, and I had an old Hotmail. I don't even know what their emails. But yeah, I have had people in Korea, Singapore, Europe's, all over the world, Italy, Greece,
Wow.
everywhere. Yeah, Russia, Ukraine. I mean, I've had people contact me, on email or on my websites, because they've seen my articles or they've seen my books, throughout the years. But yeah, I have done, and I used to do, phone or Skype. In the old days, we used to do Skype,
Oh yeah.
so it was free, and now I got a Zoom account, and I still use Skype sometimes too. And
Oh,
so,
okay.
but yeah, I had a lady from Serbia recently that really wanted my books, but for some reason, Amazon won't ship there, so she couldn't get my books. So she really
Okay.
wanted them, and I said, she wanted all of them, and I got 9. So I got them
Yeah.
already, and I said, you know what, I'll ship them to you, but the shipping's going to be more than the books. You know how that is shipping
Oh yeah, yeah,
overseas.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was literally like $100 for her to even for me to ship them to her, but she paid me, and I shipped her a signed copies of all my 9 books. So, and then I had someone from Germany who wanted signed book, and same thing. The shipping was a little bit of an issue, but I will
Yeah.
ship UK. I got a lot of UK clients, in England and in Ireland and in Scotland, and yeah, it's fun. And I love it. I love meeting people from all over the world, Canada, everywhere. So
Wow. Awesome. Wow. All these things, you have actually grown over the years in terms of
Yeah.
experience, and even the people is tremendous, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you might, or you must have actually made some mistakes along the
Yeah.
way, or even had some what many people call it as a failure, right? So
Sure.
Carmen, can you tell us, do you have a favorite failure of yours, and
I
how do
do.
you approach
Yep.
that failure, and what lessons have you learned from your biggest setbacks?
Wow, that's great. That's a great question. So my biggest failure ended up coming full circle and what was one of my biggest blessings. Okay, because
Okay.
many years ago I submitted a proposal to a publisher for my astrology book. Okay, and it was called "The Mysteries of the Eighth Astrological House: Phoenix Rising." And I wrote
Mm.
that book based on an article that I wrote years ago when I was like 20, right? And I was so excited. You know, I submitted it to them. They came back and and the editor or agent said, "Hey, we're interested, but can you write a book about all of the astrological houses?" Right? And this was like back in 2009. Okay, so this has been a while. And I
Mhm.
thought, oh, of course, right? And so they paid me a little bit of money. They gave me a year. I wrote this book from scratch, right? And at the time, I was working full time. I had a little 3-year old, and I was just trying to, get this book written from scratch, because it wasn't the original manuscript, right, that I sent. And then
Mhm.
the lady that kind of signed me on, the editor, I guess she unexpectedly left, but nobody told me. And so when I went to check in, hey, what's going on with the book, they came back and said, well, we changed our mind. There's not a market for House's book. And I'm like,
Oh.
oh man. And so, my dream was to get published. So I was devastated at the time. And I thought, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, this is, what am I going to do? So I just went ahead and self-published it. Both books, the Eighth House and the Planets book. And of course, they haven't sold a ton, because they're self-published. And I used Book Surge, back in the day, and then Amazon bought them out just a few years ago. But getting turned down and deciding to self-publish was a good thing, because I believe that we have to get comfortable with rejection and criticism. And as a
Right.
Virgo, I'm an earth sign. Virgos are perfectionists, and we don't like criticism because we're very high standard of ourselves, right? We're hard on
Yeah.
ourselves anyway. So I kind of was down, but you just can't let anyone that tells you no, just because you're told no once doesn't mean you're not going to be told yes later. And that's
Mhm.
something that I learned in life, even in the normal business world and at work and career, is that if you never ask, the answer, you think the answer is going to be no, but and I never wanted to ask because I always felt like it was being rude or selfish, to ask something for myself, or something silly, and I'm like, you know what, if I never ask, I'll never know. And I started asking, can I do this? And they're like, well, yeah. And so you start hearing yes, right? And so it's that kind of feeling not to give up. And I kept on, and it took many years of a gap there, right? And all of a sudden, the
Right.
timing was right. And I had an idea for the Sun Signs book, this one. And
Mhm.
I went ahead and sent an email and an idea to the same publisher that rejected me back in 2009, right? And they loved it, and they came back and said we want to publish it, and they gave me time to write it, and it came out.
Oh.
And then so it's the same. I mean, see, full circle. Even though I was
Yeah.
told no, later I was told yes, and that was my
Mhm.
first published book, which was my dream. That was a dream of mine, to be a published author. And then things got better. They came back and said, would you write a moon signs book, which I did, that just came out in May this summer.
Mhm.
And I wrote that, and I said, of course. I wrote it from scratch, and I loved it. It was so much fun, and I've been doing book signings for it, and different opportunities with my publisher, and it's been wonderful. And I'm just doing my dream right now. So that failure of, having that hope that, wow, they're going to do this right, and then they change their mind. But you know
Yep.
what, that's life, right? That can
Mhm.
happen to anyone. And sometimes, I have friends that, walked into work one day and they laid everybody off, especially in the business world. When years ago, when we had the crisis and things, I had like 5 friends from college that said I lost my job. I literally went in and they said go home, and they were business, business management, MBAs, accountants, and there was a lot of cuts that happened, years ago,
Yep.
and they had to start over again too, and you just can't give up. You have to be strong and know that there's a reason that things happen, and I
Yep.
believe in the law of manifestation, and I do believe in that. It's like the same law that's talked about in different religions. The golden rule. Thinking positive. Uh, you know,
Hmm.
believing and being optimistic and visualizing
Right.
what you want, and being even if you don't have it, believing that you can achieve things. Because if you're pessimistic and negative, you're never going to reach those goals. And later on, you asked me about some books I like. One of them is The Habits of Highly Effective People, and one of them
Yep.
is all of that is about being optimistic and seeing the goal and believing you can get it right, seeing it first. And but yeah, I think that failure ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me. At the time I was devastated, and I was scared to ever submit another book idea to any publisher, but I went
Yep.
ahead and did it, and it all worked out. And now I'm doing what I love to do, writing books.
Nice. Wow. Wow, that's amazing. I mean,
Thank
like,
you.
being rejected, and then after that, you
Yeah,
thought that, oh, it's not going to be over. I'm going
yeah,
to continue with my own path before something magical happened again, which is
yeah,
the same publisher that actually you went back to.
yeah,
They actually loved your book and they loved the idea and they said
yeah,
yes to you. Wow, that is
yeah,
magnificent,
yeah,
man. So it's always like this, right? Stories
yeah,
where you get rejected, and then after that,
yeah,
you don't receive what you wanted, and then next moment you persevere. You
yeah,
went on to fight for your dreams, and guess what? Few years later,
yeah,
some people will be months, some will be years, and
yeah,
then after that, you get what you want.
yes,
And man, that is amazing. And sometimes you might even get more than what you want, in a
yes,
sense, right?
yes, yes. Yeah, it's amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
and I can share later some other questions you have, about mentors
Oh
and things
yeah.
too. But yeah, I think that sometimes it's about timing, and sometimes, some
True.
people's timing is
Mm-hmm.
early when they're young. Some people's timing for success is when they're a little bit older. And I used to say this to my brother because he's a Capricorn sun and moon, and he's an
Mm-hmm.
MBA business, always wanted to rise up, and it took him a little longer than other people, his friends. I told him, you're the goat. You go up the mountain, you might trip and fall, but you will reach the top of the mountain one day and you will be successful, because Capricorn rules career and success in astrology. And I said, you
Mm.
will be. And now he's doing so wonderful. And he said he never thought he would. He just was really having one setback after the other and seeing people promote over him. And I told him, you're going to get there. Don't worry about it. You got a good chart and good luck with career. And now it's all worked. And now he has a family and
Nice.
kids and everything, and he's loving his job. And so it all worked out. So you just gotta
Okay.
let the timing be for you, and that's what astrology is about, is timing. And also looking at your strengths and your energies in your birth chart can show what career fields are good for you, where you have good luck, and all of those kind of things. And
Oh, okay.
people can bring you luck sometimes, other people, even though you
Other people.
might, yeah, other people, and those connections and those networks and those collaborations can bring you success too. So those are things that can be seen in someone's birth chart, what they need to do. And I give tips on that when I meet someone and do their chart, what I see, try to
Okay.
encourage them. Yeah,
Okay. Nice. We'll talk a little bit
yeah,
more about this chart later on, especially my chart,
yeah,
in a while. But of course, I'm pretty sure, when you were building your business up, you would have met some mentors along the way,
yeah,
right? Business mentors and
yes,
all. So can you tell us what's the best piece of advice you've ever received from your mentor?
yeah, that's a great question. um well, I'll tell you, my mentor is really the reason that I ended up, submitting another book proposal, because my
Oh.
mentor is was also in the psychology field, and he started doing astrology back in the 1980s, and he published his
Oh,
first book in 86, and his name's Bernie Ashman, and he has been like my friend, a mentor, a support to me for many years, and he's followed me in my groups. He read my eighth house book. He told me you need to submit, you need to do this, and he told me this in 2015, and it took me a little longer to finally listen, but he was my biggest cheerleader, and he made me believe in myself that I could write, and that he thought that I had some good ideas. So without his support, I probably would never send another submission manuscript in, right? And so
right.
him and I still talk every day. We're actually writing a book together that's going to come out next year. And
Oh,
that was amazing that he wanted to write a book with me, and he said, "You're the only person I would want to write a book with," and I'm like, "Same." And so we're writing a book together, and already wrote it. And in the publishing world, you got to wait almost 10 months to a year before your book actually publishes.
oh,
Once you submit it, it's something that I learned. I didn't know that, because it takes that long to get your book title in the systems and in the publishing databases. And so you wait almost a whole year before you see it come to life, but it's worth it.
yeah.
Yeah. So he's
Wow.
my mentor. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, nice, nice. And just now you were talking about books, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us like what books besides your
Yeah.
own, besides the one that you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
the eight was it eight habits? Was it seven
Yeah,
habits?
yeah. The
Yeah, seven
seven
habits.
habits. Yeah, the seven
Yeah,
habits of highly
yeah,
effective people. I
yeah.
also I also like there's a book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And
Oh,
and that's
okay.
a really good book, and I remember reading
Yes.
that back in the 90s, I think. I mean, it was a long time ago. And it's about how your thoughts create illness, and your positive thinking can help you heal, and how she changed her whole life, and now she's a well-known author, owns her own a publishing company, and helps
Yep.
people. And then Wayne Dyer, I like some of his books as well. Deepak Chopra, I love
Oh,
his books. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I would say there's so many. I like the Four Agreements. That's a good book. Um,
Oh, yes. I love
yeah,
that.
yeah, and I love there's just so many books I like. I
Mm.
don't have enough time to read, because I'm always doing something else, it seems like, lately. But I do like to read. Maybe one day I'll be able to read some books again. My daughter's always
Okay.
on me about reading. She loves to read, so she reads a lot. But she's 19,
Oh,
and
nice.
she's going into English and history major, going to college in August. So
Wow. All the
very,
best.
yeah. Thank you, thank you.
Wow, welcome, welcome. And wow, nice. And now we're gonna go to the main focus of our interview. So can you tell us more, Carmen, regarding like astrology? Can you tell us what is it all about in terms of astrology, and also at the same time earlier on you mentioned about
Yeah,
timing, right? So
yeah.
everyone has their own timing. And can we actually like pull some strings and let those timing become shorter? Can we do that, or
Yeah, yeah.
we take
Um,
of that?
yeah, that's a good question. This is a big question. Um,
Hmm.
so let me explain. So there's many different types of astrology charts.
I see.
The One of the most important ones is what we call a natal chart or birth chart, and that's based on your exact month, date, year of birth, your exact time of birth. AM or PM is very important as well, and your
Hmm.
city, state, country. And
Okay.
that's what's we need to start with, that, because that starts with you, the individual. And that
Right.
shows your luck, your talents, your strengths, your weaknesses, where your soul mission is, where you're meant to go, where you're meant to focus on. And there's a lot that goes into it, right? But
Right.
what we do is pretty much, even twins can have different charts, because the planets are moving through the 12 signs, the 12 star constellations, and they're going to
Hmm.
be in a certain area of the sky when you're born. So on your exact day, year, place, time of birth, all of those planets were in a certain star constellation, which are the signs, the 12 signs,
Right.
and they were in an area of the sky which we call houses. So it when
Oh,
you look at the sky from Earth, it's like you take a
yep.
picture and put it on a piece of paper, and that wheel with the 12 houses and all the symbols is your soul map. That's your
Okay.
your soul map. And it's important to know that. And some people don't know their time of birth. If they don't, it's hard for an astrologer to really nail down, but we can get a sense by estimating between a certain time frame. We can get an pretty accurate chart, but it's not going to be as accurate unless you have your time. So the time is
Mhm.
critical. And so we'll look at that first. So let's start with that. When I look at
Okay.
a chart, when we look at a chart, we want to look, if you're talking about career and
Right.
and success, we want to look for the signs Capricorn, okay, because Capricorn rules career and success. They rule
Okay.
entrepreneurship. They rule the public eye. They rule the 10th house in astrology, which is the house of success and your work and your career. And so when I look at your chart, for you, for instance, your sun
Okay.
is in the 10th house in your birth chart. That means your main identity, you shine at work, you shine in your career, and looking for success and being hardworking. You're a Virgo, but it's in the 10th house. And then I look at what sign is there was on that 10th house cusp, because that
Mhm.
kind of shows me what kind of careers are good for you. And you have Virgo. You know what Virgos are known for? Communication, sharing knowledge, teaching, radio, broadcasting, writing, learning, right?
Mhm.
Networking. Virgos are they're ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication. So spreading knowledge and helping people in some way. They like to be a service, practical service. They're perfectionists. They're detail focused. They
Yeah.
see what needs to be fixed. They're loyal, practical, efficient, productive, and you got all of that. So you shine in your career. So you're a person. If I would have met you long time ago and did your chart, I would have said you're going to be a success in your career. You don't need to worry.
Okay.
You're going to shine. And you don't need to worry about it, because that's a very positive placement of the sun, having it in that Capricorn house of career. And then a lot of different placements we look at, right, is that sign on that 10th house. Like if it's Aries, you're going to be a
Mhm.
person that does not want to work for other people. You're going to want to own your own business. Same with Capricorn on the 10th. You're going to want to own your own business, not have to work for anyone else, be independent,
Right.
self-reliant in your work. And so there's things I look for. Aries are known, to be driven, motivating people. They're salesmen, natural salesmen. They can sell somebody anything, right? They're
Right.
charismatic, they're energetic, they're strong, they're go-getters. They like action, right? They like crisis. They do good in crisis. So, and they like a
Okay.
risk, taking risks. And so Aries typically are these entrepreneur type people that own their own businesses. So are Capricorns, and so are people that have planets in the 10th house. Okay.
Okay.
So those are things I look for when I'm looking at someone's, if someone needs to own a business. Like just the other day, I was telling somebody, she was 57. I said, "Have you
Mhm.
ever thought about, learning, owning your own business, starting being your own boss?" And she said, "This is so weird because yes, my husband and I are just researching to start their own restaurant. They're chefs, right, to own their own business." And I said, "You need to work for yourself." That was in her chart, in her 10th house, and her stuff. So yes, I saw we have a Pisces on. Welcome.
Yeah.
Pisces are the spiritual, compassionate, kind, artistic, creative, empathic. A lot of Pisces are musicians, actors, artists, all those things. They like to help people, social workers, counselors. So
Mhm.
they're very artistic. So uh, I like Pisces. That's our
Oh,
Virgo's polar
nice.
polar opposite is Pisces. So
Oh.
and yeah, so what that means is everyone has a polar opposite sign, all 12 signs. And when you think of polar opposite, you think that means we're different, but it actually means that
Right.
you're all very similar. So Virgo and Pisces are similar. They share similar personality traits. It's like a continuum, and health issues, vulnerable areas, right? And
Mhm.
so every Pisces has a little Virgo, every Virgo sun has a little Pisces. So that's
Oh.
something that I teach people. But yes, some I wrote down some notes here. So another thing to really be cautious about is not everyone should own a business. Okay, And there might
Oh,
be things in your
okay.
birth chart that show that it's best for some people to have a partner or they won't succeed. So they need like
I
a
see.
business partner, right? And these are things
Mhm.
like that astrologers can see. And the thing about astrology is there's so many types, and it's so in depth. You can spend your lifetime learning this. I'm not an
Yeah,
expert in business astrology. There are people that are experts in it, and there's books out there just on business astrology. I mean,
I
it,
see.
it's I mean, this is why I love astrology. I'm always getting to master and learn something new, right? Medical
Mhm.
astrology. There's even astrology charts that tell you where is the best place for you to live in the world, where you'll have career success. Yeah,
Wow.
we call it
Oh,
astrocartography. And you do your chart. I do a little thing, and I tell you these are the cities. You give me a list of cities and countries. I'll tell you where's the best for you to live and where it's not good for you to live for your career, for your success. So those are things we can do. And
mhm.
then we want to look at the seventh house, because in the chart it's the house of partners, and some
Yeah.
people have certain planets there that I caution them, don't ever partner with anyone. Okay, so you have a full mix of how this can play
Mm,
out. And so some people, I'm
okay.
like, if don't be careful who you partner with, because you could get disillusioned or lied to, or kind of blindsided by someone, or someone might be unstable as a partner. You got to be careful who you go into business with. That's what
Yeah.
everybody said. And people always say, keep emotions out of business. This is business, not personal. But it's very personal when you're partnering with people and your money is involved. It's very personal. So I recommend, if you're going to start a business, to look at your birth chart first. And then some cool things that astrologers can do too is, like, when I started my business, my astrology practice, you can actually do a chart for the start, the idea, the day you had the idea. You can do a chart and see
Oh,
and it's a map of that idea, that business. And then you can do an astrology chart. You can look and make a good date to start the business, where you sign the paperwork to actually become a real business. You can kind of wait and get the right day and energy and chart. And then people have asked me to do that for them many years ago. I've done that. And I'm like, yeah, this is a
okay.
good day to start the business, because your business has its own birth chart, and you can
Mm,
analyze that just like you do a person. Okay.
okay.
And so
Oh, so this is something like Chinese feng shui, right? In a sense.
yeah, because
Okay.
it'll
Okay. Interesting.
it's like if you tell me, what, it's like if you're going to buy a house on a certain day
Right.
or time. It's like, okay, we're going to go ahead and sign the paperwork, and this is official business. We're going live on August 20th, to 24, whatever. We can look and
Right.
see, is that a good day for that type of business, because certain signs rule certain careers. Okay, so
Oh,
like
okay.
Capricorn is known for business, finance, real estate, sales,
Mhm.
owning land, owning their own business, being a worker. And so Capricorns are a little bit more cautious about business.
Okay.
They're a little bit more cautious, and they like to plan. And Taurus, the earth signs, are known to be planners. Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn, and they like to be very practical, and they're workaholics. Those three signs like
Okay.
to work. They like to
Okay.
they like to work, and they like to be successful and achieve things. And then
Mm.
so you got to really look at all these signs. But whenever I see like someone has a lot of
Ah.
Leos typically are drawn to be on stage. So they're charismatic. They're kind of the person in
Mhm.
the company. You want to put them out on stage and let them sell it, because they can sell a car to anyone, right? They're charming, they're
Yeah.
charismatic. And Leos tend to promote early in life. They get a lot of luck with their success. And that's a Leo
Mhm.
thing. But then later in life, things can change for them. A lot of Leos, they're like high position early when they're young. But Capricorn is a little different. They work real hard, and they always feel like they're the hardest worker, but they're not having those doors open like other people. But that's because that's their destiny. they're meant to be slow with time, and then they move up the top of the ladder, right? So every
Oh,
sign has
okay.
its karma, its destiny. Okay.
I
um,
see.
and so we can look at all that, and like someone with Mars, the planet Mars is like the planet of drive, aggression, like it's where you have a ton of energy. When you have that in the 10th house, I every time I see a person with Mars there, they're successful, but they also are very competitive. Like they want to be the best at work. They'll
Yeah.
like step.
Okay.
Sometimes they may step over you to be the best, right? And they got to learn to be less self centered and think about the group and other people too. But they always want to reach their goals, right?
Right.
They're and if your Mars is there, you're going to be. I mean, every no matter what, you're going to be a hard worker. I mean, everyone I
Yeah.
met with certain placements, right, in that house of career, it plays out different. And I'll give you an example. One if you have Venus there, the planet it's
Mhm.
the feminine planet, the planet of love. You typically benefit through females in your career. So females may
Oh,
promote you. Co-workers that are females might help you, right, in your career. And that's because it's the feminine planet. And when it's in the 10th house, it's not a bad thing. It's a positive thing. But like if you have Neptune there, Neptune can be very difficult because it's hard for you to figure out what you want to do as a career because you're a little bit fogginess. You don't see clearly. You might be a little confused. What is best for me? And you might not know what career to do when Neptune's there. And then when if you have Uranus, the planet of unexpected changes in your 10th house, your job situation can be up and down most of your life, and you can change jobs, get laid off. Unexpected things happen at work, right? But those
right.
things happen to make you grow. And if you're not growing, Uranus shakes it up, right? So if you're in a job you hate, it's going to force you to change, and that's your destiny, right? And so we look
Right.
at all of those things. I mean, I could talk for hours about this, but there's so much to it. It's in depth, and it's hard to explain it all real quick. But yes, you can look at so many things to see where your strengths are, if you should partner with people, if you should own a business, what kind of business would be good for you, where you have good luck and success and good fortune. We can see all of that in the energy of your birth chart, and we can see that in the chart of the business. If you already have a business, we can look at it and give tips and things like that, right? uh,
Right.
to help the business owner. And there's timing, like uh, it's just a whole nother thing that's in depth. But we have something called transits. So we do what's called a transit chart, and a transit
Okay.
chart, it's what's going on in the sky right now and how it's affecting the whole world. So so that
Oh,
energy is affecting all of us right now. So for instance, Pluto, there was a lot of stuff online, people may have seen it, that Pluto had been in Capricorn for many, many years. And it was going to be moving into the sign Aquarius. And everybody was freaking out, like what's going to happen? And oh
right.
yes, yes. And so right now we got a full moon, Bernadette. The full moon is in Capricorn right now. So
Oh,
whenever there's a moon, when we look at the moon, the sun is your main identity, your main personality that you show to the world. The moon sign is your inner nature. It's your emotions. It's where you find fulfillment, happiness, where you find comfort, stability. So looking at it's where you express love and emotions to people. So knowing
right.
what sign the moon is in when you're born is important, and knowing what house it's in. But everyone on earth is affected by the cycles of the moon. And this is a science. This is like astronomy 101, because the moon affects the tides of the ocean. And of course, our body is made up of mostly water. How would it not affect us? And it does. And so I did a lot of research on this when I was a social worker working with runaway teens. Every time there was a full moon, I would see that all of my teens were at the police station. And I'm like, yep, it was like the busiest
Oh,
weekend of my life. And I started telling my coworkers, this is back when I was like 22, right? And I told my
mhm.
coworkers, there's a full moon this weekend. You guys need to be ready because why is the full moon, it heightens our emotions. It makes us a little irritable. makes us more sensitive. People might cry more easily and they're like, what is wrong with me? And I tell them, well, it's a full moon. And they're like, oh my gosh, I
Okay.
knew something was going on because I'm never emotional. And so the moon cycles affect everyone differently based on your moon sign and based on what sign the moon is in. And the moon changes signs every 2 to 3 days. It goes through all of the 12 signs every 2 to 3 days. And yeah, you were born on a full moon. Yeah, they call that a special, like a intense, very super intense time to be born on a full moon. It kind of
Oh,
intensifies your emotional nature in a way.
okay.
And so your moon sign is how you react and instinctually feel things like immediately. And sometimes we hide our inner nature because we don't want to be hurt, we don't want to be vulnerable. So a lot of people might notice, that Rayson, that you're a Virgo. People notice
Yeah.
I'm a Virgo. I like to talk, I like to teach, I like to learn about people, but I'm a little shy. It's a Virgo thing. But when we're
Mm-hmm.
teaching, when we're on Zoom or on in a classroom, we kind of come out of our shell because we like
Yeah.
knowledge. Virgos like knowledge. But my moon sign is Aries, and I got to be careful because I feel my emotions so intensely. It's opposite of my Virgo. And I have to
Okay.
stop and breathe and be patient and watch what I say, watch what I do, because Aries energy is very direct and blunt and honest, and it wants to
Mhm.
express itself in the moment, and it wants action. And so I'm not the most patient person emotionally, but thank gosh for my Virgo, because that helps me be practical and say, okay, wait a minute, I'm not gonna quit my job over this, right? I need to calm down, right? And so, so everyone has their moon sign that is going to affect their emotional nature. And right now we have a full moon. And in my book, Moon Signs, Houses, and Healing, I talk about the full moon and how it affects each moon sign. And each
Oh,
moon, and it's based on your element. So if you think about in nature, we have the four elements: fire, air,
right.
earth, and water. And it's the same thing in astrology. So every sign is ruled by one of the elements. And this is what's cool. There's three signs in each element, and that three times 12. And so there's three fire signs, three earth signs, three water signs, three air signs. And in nature, if you think about it, if you throw water on fire, what does it do? Puts it out. And
Yeah.
so water signs aren't the most compatible with fire signs, okay? And and
Right.
and so air signs are compatible with fire signs because air signs help fire grow and they
Yeah.
complement each other. So and earth and water go together, right? Earth signs and water runs on the earth. It's very natural. So the earth and water signs are always polar opposites in the sky at all times. And the fire and air signs are always opposing each other in the sky at all times. This is astronomy. It's just the way
Okay.
it is. And so it's because those are compatible elements. And that's why we always get along with our polar opposite sun sign. And same with the moon. Whatever sign the moon is in, you're probably going to get along with that person with the sun sign in that. Like Aries, I click with Aries and I draw them because my moon is Aries. My mother's a Sagittarius sun, my father's a Sagittarius moon. They just click. There's a compatibility there. And so we look at relationship compatibility, right? Business partner compatibility. I can tell you all of it if I see someone's chart, right? And I can
Right.
also another cool thing, in business, especially if you're like, own a startup or have your own business and you're recruiting the brightest and sharpest and most smartest people out there. You want the best on your team, right? I recommend having their birth chart done because you need to see how the relationship with them affects you. And we call that a synastry chart. I can put I can do your chart, Racing, and do my chart, put them on top of each other, and I can see how I affect you in all areas of life and how you impact my life and career, everything. And so you can do that with any two people, and then you can do a composite chart, which puts two people together as a couple, as one unit, and you'll see how the relationship is and can analyze that.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So I mean,
Okay.
there are
Okay.
so many different types of charts that we can do. I mean, I could
Oh,
spend a long time talking about it, but no, if you want to
I
ask me
understand.
something else, I know I've been talking quite a while, but
No worries. I understand. Wow, interesting. I didn't know there's so many charts. And Carmen, how many charts are there? Is it like more than 10 or
no,
what?
no. Geez, I've done hundreds of charts in my life, thousands of charts, thousands of charts.
Oh,
I
wow.
but lately, there was one
Mm-hmm.
point recently that I had 100 people on my wait list, and what I do is this is a big thing in my books. I talk about self care
Right.
because it's something that we're not good at, especially people that are work a lot, they want to succeed, and people that are in the helping professions, they tend to neglect themselves and their own health and their own thing. And so I'm always trying to do more self-care, and let me tell you a story why I included that in the books. I was in a leadership class at Washington University. It's where I got my master's in St. Louis, and it was a developing leadership class. It was like 3 months long. We go into class, and we got to interview all these entrepreneurs and these business owners that had moved their way up and were the head of hospitals. All these different things, right, in this area. And we all got to ask them a question, and they rotated around, right, to our little groups, and there's about 8 of them, and very successful people. And everyone was asking them stuff about work and all this, and I asked each of them, what do you do for self-care? And you should see the look on their face. They said, honestly, I'm not good at that. I don't do that well, because they're workaholics. All they're doing is producing and working and traveling and going and balancing their family and everything, trying to do this work-life balance, right? And so I realized, wow, dang, man, so I want to be like a living example to people that I see, because you know why? It's kind of like people aren't going to respect you if you're teaching them something. Like I teach self-care stuff to victim advocates and people, and I'm like, if I'm not doing these things, they're going to notice. And they notice when I'm on the email at 8 o'clock at night, or I'm sending something on the weekend. I'm not supposed to be on the computer, right? And that's a
Yeah.
Virgo thing. I get on the computer and I'm like, nope, I'm not going to log on. I'm on leave, right? I'm off. But you have to do that. You've got to have boundaries, and you've got to have time to withdraw from the world and replenish your tank, so to speak, or you can't keep going at that adrenaline at that high pace. So I think
Right.
that self-care is so important. People
Yeah,
drain me,
it
and
is.
self-care is, yes, Bernadette, I love my alone time. Oh my, I have to have my alone time, or I'm not fun to be around, let me just tell you.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I got 3 Virgos in my house. I'm married to a
Oh,
Virgo. Yeah, we're born the same exact day, but he's 5 years older. And
oh,
my daughter is also a Virgo. She was born the day before we were born. She missed it by 1 hour. She was almost born on
okay.
our birthday. But all of us love our alone time, and that's a Virgo Pisces thing. We need time alone. We need
Yeah.
solitude. We need peace. We need time by ourselves to read, meditate, walk, whatever, cuddle with our pet, and nobody bugging us, and not being around people, because that's how we recover from being out in the world and working and doing things. So it's very common for Virgo and Pisces to be homebodies. And so, like, my husband has his space downstairs. I got my office here, my little work area, and then my daughter's in her room reading her books. We all are in different rooms. We come out to eat together, and then we go in our different rooms, and
Okay.
it works, right? And so
Yeah.
we all have, things like Bernadette, said she knows herself, and that's what
Hmm.
astrology is about, is self-awareness and
Yeah.
knowing your strengths, knowing yourself, knowing where your challenges are with people or with your own life. And like, I know it's hard for me to let the past go. That was hard for me.
Hmm.
And I can be strong-willed and stubborn. And oh yeah, people think it's lonely, but I know, right? I used to go out to dinner in college. I go eat by myself at a restaurant. I love that. I love being by myself. I take my laptop, and I got my books, and I'm just, going to the bread, Olive Garden or somewhere. And they would always say, are you alone? Are you waiting for someone? I'm like, no, I'm just me. I'll go ahead and order. And they always think it's so strange that I like to eat by myself. And I used to go to movies by myself. I love that, right? I mean, I have
Oh,
friends
okay.
that I like, I used to do that. If my friends were busy, I'd go to the movies. So I like my own company. And I feel peace. I'm not lonely, and people might think it's loneliness, but it's not. I get that. I get that, Bernadette. Definitely.
Yeah, understand. And Carmen, just wondering how can astrology help in understanding and predicting business trends and opportunities? I understand that you mentioned about
Yeah.
the house, the the
Yeah.
signs and all. Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
more on that as well?
Yeah. So the biggest thing, that with that is, there's a quote that I wrote down here. I thought you would like it. Let me see where I can find it
Okay.
here. Yeah, J.P. Morgan, said, millionaires use astrology. Millionaires don't use astrology. Billionaires do. J.P.
Oh,
Morgan said that. So I'm telling you, there's a lot of people, um, use astrology, and they don't, and no one would know. And they use it for hiring people. They use it for predicting different markets, and it's the transits. I was talking a little bit about the transits. So what we would do
yeah.
is we want to see the business chart, and like there's business astrologers out there that focus on this in depth, but you want to see the chart of the business, and you want to see what transits of planets are impacting that business, and the money. The second house is
Okay.
your financial part of the business, your money, and if there's something going on there that could be causing some trouble, we'd be able to see it. And then if there's issues with the health of the business or partners, co-workers, we can kind of do that transit chart, which you put at it on the outside of the business chart, and see what's affecting. And it's really looking at the transits every day. So like I do a astrological, it's energy. I do a forecast to say, hey, these are all of the major changes happening with the planets this month. And
Okay.
knowing that really helps. So, like for instance, this month, July, I knew that I was going to feel a little bit stuck and not feeling as good as I was in June. June, I was go, go, go. I was having all these ideas. I was multitasking, getting a lot done. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, I felt a little lazy. I'm like, whoa, I don't want to do any. I'm just not motivated like I was. So those are things that every day, every month, we're impacted by. The moon and the changes of the planets do impact our life. And you
Right.
can really start with the birth chart, and then
Mhm.
in the business chart, I really start with the people, because people
Okay.
is what makes a business. And
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? And if you hire the right people, you'll be success. If you network and collaborate with the right people, you can grow success. And astrology can help you know who those people are, what kind of personality traits they have. And then yeah, I mean there's a lot you can look at, with the second house is the house of money and finance in your
Okay.
chart. And so
Okay.
some people, have inheritance. I mean, I can see in a chart if someone might inherit money. And I just did this the other day. Someone had Uranus in their and Pluto in their money house, and I said, "Did you inherit money recently?" And they're like, "Yeah, I did." One of their parents had passed away, and they inherited a lot of money, or they inherited land. So these are all things that astrologers can do, and there
Oh,
are
interesting.
like, I'm not one of them, but there are financial astrologers that their whole specialty is numbers and
Hmm.
money, and looking at this kind of thing. And they can tell you when's the best time to invest money in certain corporations or in the stock market. I mean, all of this stuff is connected. And like the stock
Okay.
market crash, right? Like when Pluto was, let me give you an example. When Pluto was in Aquarius, it was back when there was the French Revolution. And
Mm.
look, and as soon as it moved from Capricorn back into Aquarius recently, it was last year, we had the uprisings in Paris in France, right? And
Right.
that's been going on with the retirement age. there's similar historic patterns that you can see play out in the world, right? Financial patterns, different things, and it's all astrological energy, really, when you come down to it. I just watched a video the other day that someone posted, and I got a good giggle out of it. It was pretty funny because I'm like, yeah, it's true. It said you believe in astrology whether you admit it or not, and it was like a video about science and like how astrology is in everything. It's literally in
Mm,
everything, and it's affecting all of us all the time. And it's something you can't believe in or not believe in. It just is. It just exists, and it's
okay.
affecting us. Just like gravity. Gravity, we
Yep.
know everyone that jumps off a building is going to fall. It's the same kind of
Yeah.
thing with the full moon and all these things.
Okay, understand. And Carmen, can you tell us like what are some practical ways in which entrepreneurs and business owners can integrate astrology into their decision making process, especially
Oh
when
yeah,
when they wanna do a business deal, for example, with somebody, or they want to sign a
yeah.
contract with a big brand, for example.
Yes, yes. I'm glad you brought this up because this is something that I did not talk about yet. So one of the things that we always say in astrology, it has to do with the planet Mercury. And I don't know if you ever see the memes, Mercury's retrograde. People talk about this, right?
Uh huh.
Mercury, you never want to sign a contract or do anything new or buy a house, buy a car, or start anything new or sign contracts when the planet Mercury is retrograde, which means that it's spinning backwards in the sky, and it happens like 4 times a year, and it lasts for 6 to 8 weeks. It affects everybody on Earth. And
Oh,
so,
okay.
yes, so this is something, if you look up Mercury retrograde dates, you can
Uh
see
huh.
when Mercury's retrograde. And this is something I would tell business owners because I learned this. I had It's so interesting. Like you'll think, okay, I want this. I want to get a new job, right? If you already are starting to do something before Mercury's retrograde, then it's a good time that it'll come to conclusion and finish out typically when the planet goes retrograde. So you may be
Oh,
already putting job resumes out, already interviewing people to hire, or you're trying to get a job, and Mercury's direct, everything's fine. And then when Mercury goes retrograde, almost every time I've been offered a job, officially got a job, was when Mercury was retrograde. The whole
oh,
thing always, because Mercury retrograde is about contracts, making formal commitments, decisions, things manifest into reality, right? But it's
right.
not a good time. It's there's communication disturbances, miscommunication. Okay, things that
Oh,
you talk, if you plan something during Mercury retrograde, 100% of the time, the whole thing changes. And this just happened to me. I just had it happen twice this year. We were
oh,
gonna,
damn.
yeah, we were looking to buy a house, and I knew we should not sign any contract or anything because Mercury was retrograde. But we didn't want to lose the house, so we signed the contract during Mercury retrograde. And as
And
soon
then,
as it went direct, the seller, I mean, we had signed and bought the house. She came back, and the realtor said, "Sorry, but she changed her mind. She doesn't want to sell the house now." And we're like, "What?"
oh shit.
I know, right? My lost my dream home, man, and I'm still haven't found. I'm still where I'm at. Still haven't found anything. But anyway, so
Okay.
that happened, and I knew it. I knew it. But and then I had been kind of thinking of, a couple times in my life, thinking of getting a new job, doing a change, and kind of, looking into it, thinking about it, which is Mercury, our mind, our thoughts, our communication,
Okay.
and messenger, right? Travel. Mercury affects travel delays, computers and technology go haywire. People don't get your
Oh,
emails. If you email something like a company email, I've seen it happen. It can have a lot of backlash. People, like, they misinterpret what the business owner says. You're like, wait a minute, that's not my intention. That's not what I meant. But when Mercury's retrograde, people miss. They don't see things clearly with communication. So it's a time where you don't want to put a lot in writing. You don't want to say things that that you might have to change later. Just kind of
mhm.
withdraw, and it's a time to reflect and just let things play out that you've already did. So it's a good time to get projects done that you already started. That's okay.
Okay.
But don't hire new people. Don't interview people during Mercury retrograde. Don't start a business during Mercury retrograde and sign everything. Okay, just wait. And that's a big thing with business. The planet Mercury.
So
Um,
you're saying that Mercury retrograde is actually happening within for a period
everyone,
of 68 weeks, right?
it's 6 to 8 weeks. It
Oh,
happens,
six
and
to eight weeks. Okay,
six to
okay,
eight.
6 to 8 weeks.
So it's
Okay.
4 times a year. So it happens
Oh,
quite a
okay.
bit. So I'm finally, oh, Mercury retrograde's over, yay! And I'm like, oh, and the
Okay.
reason is, if your sign is a Virgo or Gemini, or you have a
Mm.
lot of Virgo or Gemini in your birth chart, Mercury retrograde will affect you more than other people, because that's our ruler. Every sign
Oh,
has a ruling planet, and Virgo's ruler is Gemini, and so is Gemini. We're ruled by the same
okay.
planet, and so we tend to feel it more. I find Virgos feel it a lot more than other people, other signs, because
Okay.
it affects our whole life, because we're ruled by that planet. And in
Okay.
Vedic astrology, there's Western astrology, there's Eastern astrology, Chinese, Vedic is what we call it, sidereal. It's a little bit different how they calculate, but they believe that certain planetary energies, that you can wear certain gemstones on, or wear them
Oh,
on your, as a necklace or as a ring. So here's mine. And this is a nice story about an Indian. My friend from India was an astrologer. Was an astrologer in India for many years, and he sent me this ring. It's an emerald, and it's
oh,
supposed to be worn on my pinky finger and never taken off, and it's supposed to help me with the Mercury in my chart, because I'm a thinker, and it's hard for me to
okay.
sleep,
Interesting.
hard for me to still my mind at night, because I'm always thinking. And so this is supposed to help me. And he passed away last Christmas, unexpected, and
Oh,
I'm very sad. He was
sorry to hear
one of my friends on Facebook for many, many years, and would help me, and he was an astrologer, and I miss him very much. But I remember him every time I see my ring that he sent me from
that. Okay.
India. So, but
Oh,
anyway, yes, there's so much, and I recommend starting with, if I'm a business owner, and even at work, like when you're working with people, what I try to do is, I like to do team buildings, and I like to do like the four lenses. I've been trained in that, or the true colors, and it's the same as the four elements in astrology, and get to know people's main personalities. When is your birthday? Are you an orange, gold, blue, or green? Which are the elements, right? Blues are water, greens are air. This is just my theory. I want to write a book about it, but it's all the same energy of the personality. Earth signs are golds. They like order, they like tradition, they like things planned. Oranges are fire signs, they like to wing it, and it drives a gold nuts, right? So you can see at work, and we would say, oh, you're a gold, you're a green, you're a blue. We talk in that language in companies when you do these team buildings, because they'll say, okay, all the oranges go to that side of the room, all the blues go to that side of the room, and then you'll have them write a list, and oranges are writing all over the place, and then the golds are like numbered, lined, very organized, and detail. So it's like their personality and how they work is all the same. And then you can see
okay.
who they get along with at work. And it's the same with the elements. The earth signs typically get along well with each other. Earth and water get along well. Fire and air get along well. Fire and fire, so you can see it in a team. When you're a leader or a supervisor, you can really, I would say, if I could, I would say I would love to do everybody's charts, which I have done in some organizations I've worked in. When I worked in a mental health clinic, the psychiatrist that was our supervisor believed in astrology. He was a Jungian analyst, so he studied Carl Jung, and the astrology is a big part of that certification. So he had me do all of
Right.
the psychologist birth charts in the clinic, and we did a
Oh,
little team building at someone's house, and they were just blown away, because I didn't know anything about them, and I was just doing their birth charts, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And they were very
mhm.
scientific, clinical psychologists, but their mind was opened. And I find that a lot of people that go into psychology and social work are very interested in astrology as a psychological tool. It's a psychological astrology is what we call it, and it's the study of personality. It really
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Understand. Oh, interesting. And when is the next Mercury retrograde
Oh
gonna
yes,
happen?
yes, good. Let's see. Oh man, I have to look at my. I think it's gonna be in. I believe it's August or September. It's coming up soon. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So
Okay.
I
Okay. So
and if
no contract signing
yeah,
during that period
and
of time.
you can follow me. You can follow me on Facebook, Deep Soul Astrology, and I post about Mercury retrograde. I tell you the dates. I kind of give you heads up when there's a full moon, how that might affect you. I try to post as much as possible, but it's a full time job just trying to market on social media, and it's just me.
Yeah.
It's just me. I'm the only one in my business, so it's
Okay.
hard. But I'm
Okay.
always trying to, share knowledge out there. So if you follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, you'll see I post and give you a heads up about some of these things like Mercury retrograde. And if you
Okay.
Google, you can get
Interesting.
all the dates, and you'll be able to
Hmm.
know. And it's pretty amazing, um, because people that don't really know or believe in astrology, they know that there's something to it because they'll say, Carmen, is Mercury retrograde? Because this happened. I'm like, it is. So like, I knew it, so I kind of open people's minds up, at work with these different energies. And
Okay. Understand. Oh, nice. And Carmen, can you tell us like how can astrology be used to identify the most suitable industries or sectors for an individual's entrepreneurial endeavors?
oh yeah. So we really want to look at what your sun sign is, and we want to really, like we
Okay.
talked about, we need to know um, your 10th house, what's going on in your career house, and also what's going on in the 6th house, which is the house of work and career and routine and coworkers, and the house in the
Okay.
7th house, the house of partnership, business and love. Right? We want to look there, but we want to look at what sign is on the 10th house cusp, and what we call that is called the midheaven. It's the top of the chart
Mm,
of that wheel, and that's your career house. That's your outer public appearance. And then the bottom of the chart is your home. Your 4th house is your home and family. It's where you withdraw to
okay.
hide, right? Where you sleep, where you
Yeah.
live. And so it's like the upper chart is the public, the lower chart is more of internal. And so
Mm,
this is something really cool. And I'll share this. I have it hanging here. So years ago, I had a newspaper here in St. Louis, the St. Charles, what they called the St. Charles Focus. They came to me, and this was like I was like 29. I was 29 when it happened. They said
wow.
we want you to look at 15 political figures' birth charts and tell us the likelihood of who's going to win these elections, right? And this was like, I mean,
Okay.
I didn't know any of these people, right? Because I had just moved back here from Germany. Actually, I lived in Germany for a while. I moved back to this area here in St. Louis, and so I was doing, my consultations as a part-time job, and I said sure. So this reporter met with me, and he gave me. I got all these chart. All I said, well, I need their birth time, their dates, year, and place if possible. Some of them I didn't have a time for, because he wasn't able to, get them to reveal it. But most of them I had a full birth chart, and almost
Okay.
all of them had 10th house planets, and they were because they're in the
Oh,
public eye. Their sun, their
right.
moon, something was there. Capricorn, Aries, Sagittarius, Sagittarius, something on that 10th house cusp. And I actually, just by their birth chart alone, I told him and predicted, so to speak, who would win those elections. And he was freaked out because he came back and he said, you were absolutely right about all of these people. And I didn't even know I didn't know much about them, but I knew some of them had health issues. Some of them had marital things going on, family that was going to affect them in their campaign. And these are people that
Mhm.
were running for elections. So and there's a big article. I got it framed here with their pictures and everything. And
Wow.
they interviewed me for it. And this is back when I was 29. Yeah, it was fun.
Wow.
That's like one of my fun moments. And I haven't done anything like that since, but that was a great experience. And so it could be used.
Interesting.
It can just a basic, even if you don't have their time and all of the details, you can still know the basics from the sun sign and the moon sign. Just those basics. You can know a lot about are they destined to be in the public eye? Are they gonna win as a politician? Are they what are they meant to be doing? Right? Do they have good luck and good fortune with the public? Those are things you
Mhm.
can see, right?
Right. Wow. Carmen, you're actually making us more excited and interested about astrology.
Thank you. Oh,
Wow,
that's great.
interesting. Yeah, and Carmen, can you tell us, like, can astrology help in identifying and overcoming obstacles or challenges that may arise in the business journey?
Oh, definitely, definitely. So each sign has their strengths and their weaknesses. So each
Right.
sign, and I'll just start with Aries, for instance. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. They're ruled by Mars. They're known to be very self-reliant, independent. They're the warrior. Aries is known as the warrior. They're courageous. They're impatient.
Right.
They like action. So Aries, when they have a hard situation at work or something happens, they are very competitive, and so
Hmm.
they get angry easily. They have a little bit of a
Right.
temper. So that anger or that passion and that drive that Aries naturally have, that fire, right? Their fire, it helps them keep going. And they're a little bit rebellious, like, wait, you told me I'm not going to get that job, or you told me I'm not going to do that, I'll prove you wrong. So they will work hard to succeed and achieve their goals, and they're driven, and they're very resilient, because you know why? They get over things quick. They're quickly heal, they quickly move forward, and they always look at the future. But
Right.
then the second sign of the zodiac is Taurus. They're the opposite of that. Tauruses
Okay.
are earth. They're the earth sign. Tauruses rule
Right.
money and finance. They rule the second house. Okay, so they're all about stability, security, comfort, planning, being patient. They always say, Taurus is the bull. They're
Hmm.
slow to anger, but once they get mad, you'll know it. But it
Yeah.
takes a lot to make them mad. But they're very into having security, having financial success, owning. They love comfort, so they love food and having nice things, and they work hard to get it, because they're an earth sign. But the thing with Taurus is they're stubborn and they're strong-willed, and they hold on to the past. So it's hard for
Oh.
them to forgive and let go of the past. And so though that can cause them some trouble, but in business, Tauruses don't like fast change. They want to plan everything along the way and think about what could go wrong. And
Yeah.
so it's different than an Aries. An Aries is a risk taker. They're like,
Hmm.
okay, I could lose $10,000 if I put money on this. They'll still do it. A Taurus will, like, wait a minute, I could lose $10,000, right? So they're going to be a little bit
Right.
more practical, and they're not going to make rash decisions. And some people could get a little bit annoyed with a Taurus because they want to wait. And if someone's like, hey, I don't want to wait anymore, let's do this. No, I want to think about it a little bit more. They got to be ready to change, because they don't like
Yeah.
change. Yeah, Tauruses don't like change. And then,
Okay.
so every sign, that's just an example. In my book, I go through all of them, of each of
Yeah.
their strengths and how they can, heal, overcome, change, adapt to change. Because that's the thing with success is life is always changing, and
Yeah.
and every sign has its way of dealing with change and dealing with business and people. And that's the sun sign traits, and the moon sign traits. It's those two placements are such a big part of your personality and how you are at work, how you make decisions, how you communicate, how you show people you care, right? And where you feel comfortable in life. You really got to know your sun sign and moon sign. So I would love for people to get my books, and
Yeah.
they're very easy to understand. They're basic. They explain everything, and I promise that you'll leave there feeling like you know a lot more about each of the signs and more about yourself and your and strengths and tips.
Okay. Oh, nice. Then, Carmen, are there any notable examples or case studies where astrology has played a significant role in the success of a business that you have actually read for the past
Yeah.
numbers of years?
Yeah, I've done business charts before in the past, um, and I think I'll give you an example. It's not so much business, but Facebook groups. So I have a lot of Facebook. I used to have a lot of Facebook groups. I started the first astrology Facebook groups that were ever around,
Mm-hmm.
and those two groups are still around today, and I'm the admin of them, and I run them. But there was a time where I was wanting to create some new groups, so me and an
Yep.
astrology friend of mine did a chart of the group. When how will this group be? The day we had the idea to do it, and I could tell, oh wow, I think this group is going to be big. And so I started this group, and it got so big. I mean, you know how hard it is to be to be an admin of a Facebook group. I mean, because you
Oh
got to
yeah.
block people. You got people that are trolls. You got to make sure people are being treated right, and there's no bullying. I mean, it's a full time job, and that group
Yep.
grew and had like 50,000 people, and it got a little bit too much for me, but it was successful, and I went ahead and turned it over and gave it over to some other members and let them run it. And I just
Okay.
focused on my other two groups that are still have 15,000 people in there, 13,000 people from all over the world, and I don't just let anybody
Wow.
in. We got to answer questions, and
Mhm.
most of them have eighth or 12th house planets. Because that's where a lot of my research is with the eighth and 12th houses,
Yep.
and I run these groups, and those groups became very successful, and I kind of did the chart of the groups and decided to start them back in like 2010, whenever Facebook really got started, and
Yep.
they're still around today. And but I've seen businesses as well. When I started my first astrology business, I really used that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was and then some things changed. When I first started it, I forgot to mention this. It was called the Astrological Self-Awareness Center. That was the first name of my business. And
Okay.
then and then many years went by, and I thought something changed. It just didn't feel right, and I started thinking about names. I wanted to get a new website, and that's when I kind of had this. It was a creative thought. How about deep soul divers? That's kind of what came to me, and so I changed.
Oh,
I
interesting.
did the whole website, and it's called Deep Soul Divers Astrology, and I had I just made it into that, kind of changed it, got a new URL and hosting, and then just revamped my website a couple years ago now, when I have my books and stuff, so it looks totally different. I'm still making it better, putting that in, but I feel like the charts that I've seen with businesses, it always kind of played out, and I think
Mm.
one of the biggest things people want to know is, number one, should I start my own business?
Right.
Am I going to be successful, right, and all that stuff. And that can be seen with looking at birth chart,
Mm.
and then if you have a partner, looking at their chart. Okay, how are you guys together if you do this business? Or and what kind of coworkers, what kind of people will help the business grow? What kind of
Right.
personality traits? I mean, I don't need to have their whole chart. I can tell you the kind of people that will help you, you know
Mm-hmm.
and so, for Virgos, we need people that are a little bit more laid back and easygoing than us, because we're high strung, and we're very detailed. We're go go go, we're multitasking. We love to communicate, and we don't always take breaks and have fun, and we can be hard on ourselves. So we need some people
Yep.
around us that are make us laugh, that are fun, that also work hard, but they're a little bit more easygoing, and so
True.
you can get a balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what I mean. Okay. Oh, nice. Well, Carmen, well, thank you so much for all these,
Thank you.
elaborative examples and explanations on astrology and how it can affect businesses. And, as we're coming to the end of the podcast, we have one last question for you.
Sure.
Okay. And that is this. Carmen, imagine this. You suddenly lose everything, your money, your name, your reputation, your assets. So, what will you do from day one to day 30 to save yourself?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, when I saw that question, I thought, oh wow, that's a big one. Um, Oh my gosh. So, what I had said is I would align and connect myself with those people that I trust and
Mm-hmm.
those people who love me and that know my character, right? And I would try to heal first because that's a big
Right.
deal. I mean, when you have a crisis and you lose everything and you feel like you're rock bottom, it's going to take you a little time to come out of that. And
Yeah.
so if you only have 30 days, I would say it really depends on your birth chart, how quickly and how you're going to come out of that. But for me, um, I get my anger or getting a little bit angry or mad, and like, no, I'm not good. I don't like to feel depressed. I don't like to feel sad. And if I'm
Right.
feeling like that for a long time, there's something in me that gets angry, and that anger pushes me to overcome. No, I'm going to get up. I'm going to get dressed. I'm going to go back out, and I'm going to keep doing this, right? So
Right.
to me, it's not giving up. It's not giving
Mm-hmm.
up, and it's starting over again, baby steps. Because I really do believe it takes time and patience and hard work to come back from something like that at times. And I believe we need other people and collaboration and networking, and that can help us in those 30 days. That's what I would do. I would also uh, meditate, pray. I would write out my goals. I would write out what's the most important thing to me right now. Is that survival? What are my needs versus my wants? Right. I may want to
Yeah.
own and have a new car, but what do I need? I need food, and I need to be able to pay my bills. Right. And
Right.
so focusing on those basic needs first, and then you can start working towards your goals again, and being positive, and believing in the law of manifestation. And that's kind of doing a vision board, and looking at, hey, what are 10 things. This is an exercise I learned in the metaphysics school years ago when I took spiritual classes. It was called 10
Okay.
it's called 10 things I'm thankful for. And what you do is you write down 10 things that you do not have. Okay, you don't have them, but you write at the top of the list 10 things I'm thankful for, and you prioritize them 1
Oh.
to 10. Yeah. What's the most
Okay.
important thing you want? It can be material, or it can be not material. It could be success. It could be a new car. It could be a new job. It could be a lot of things. And then you kind of write it, and it's amazing how you realize what's a need versus a want. And so then you
Yeah.
start changing it. And then when you get your list really good, number 1 through 10 of most important, you put that list under your pillow, and you read it before you go to bed every night. And you read it as if you have those things. I am thankful for my new job, doing this. And you try to be as detailed as possible, because you can manifest things pretty easily. And you're like, wait a minute, I didn't really
Right.
want that, right? So be careful what
Yeah.
you put down there. And then read it when you wake up in the morning. These are 10 things I'm thankful for. And this changes your mindset from the negative to the positive. And it draws abundance. It draws and changes the energy around you. And that's what I would do. I would use all of these tools in my toolbox that I could pull out to survive in those 30 days. That's what I would do.
Wow. Wow. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice. Well, Carmen, really thank you so much for
Thank you.
all these tools and explanations and golden nuggets that you have
Thank
shared
you.
in this whole episode. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
And um, before we leave, can you tell our audience where can they find you and where can they
Sure.
buy their book? Because Bernadette is interested in getting your book as
Oh,
well.
yes. Yes. You can get my books on Amazon.com. Um, Moon Signs Houses and Healing and Sun Signs Houses and Healing. They're both on there. You can My website is www.carmenturnershott.com, and it's SCHOTT. And you can follow me on Facebook, Deep Soul Divers Astrology, also Carmen Turner Schott writer, and then Carmen Turner Schott author on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel. My handle's Carmen Turner Schott. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Once in a while, I do videos and market my books. But you can, get my books on Barnes and Noble or Amazon.com. You can get all my books on there. And on my
Awesome.
yeah, visit my website, and it'll take you straight to the Amazon link. Yeah, to order them.
Okay. Cool, cool, cool. Wow, awesome. Wow, with that, I would like to thank each and every one of you for being on the podcast, tuning in. And you know what? We're going to have a whole lineup of amazing guests that's coming on board as well. And before I forget, I also would like to thank Book Thinkers for recommending Carmen and many others
Yeah.
authors to this amazing podcast. So, with that,
Yes.
thank you and
Thank
have a
you.
great week ahead. All right. So, see you
Bye.
and goodbye.